5 metagame contending decks for April 2021. This is going to be pre-Ghost from the Past 2. I'll make the 30% of you guys that not smash the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can get to 103,000. Number 1 on our list here for right now, kind of looking at everything, I gotta put is going to be Dragon Link. So 5th lowest tier 1 deck here. Now remember, when I look at these, we do break up from like tier 1 into like 1.5. In the next video, I think we'll be running around 1.5. So keep that in mind. So I would say near 1.25 right now is Dragon Link. And the reason why I say Dragon Link is where it is right now is you have to be a semi-competent player. I say this every single video, and players are like, what do you mean? Like, why do you have to be a semi-competent player to play Dragon Link? You have to understand adaptability. You have to understand how to get this deck to play in certain situations. And I honestly think right now that Dragon Link's adaptability, pre-Boral and Dragon, is just that. This deck is going to need a good skill player. You're going to need to understand things. You don't see Dragon Link topping every single regional, but usually when you see it, it's got a semi-notable name beside it, or the build has got some pretty cool tech choices. Dragon Link is a deck where tech means the world here. And anywhere from 40 to 60 card variants can succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just be honest about that. I've seen 55 cards. I've seen 46 cards. The fact that players can adapt and play these wild numbers with a deck like Dragon Link just goes to once again show that the amount of adaptability that this deck has. It's crazy to me, honestly, that this deck is performing so dang well in the modern era Yu-Gi-Oh! Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. You've lived long enough to see Dragon Link just be the deck after how many nerfs on how many lists to still see this deck sitting at top 5. I mean, even if it's not in top 5, it's still top 10 for sure every single time. Next up here is going to be Floowandereeze. Now, I'm still considering Floowandereeze like not solid tier 1. I think they're like 1.25. Now, Floowandereeze has gotten way more representation as late. Like, you've got to be crazy looking at all of these events and going, no, like Flunder Robbie, the deck's not tier 1. Yes, Flunder at this point in time, I think, has earned its spot in the higher end of tier 1 just because they're pretty much present in every regional. You look at all these lists, you're like, oh yeah, there was one Flunder list here, there's one Flunder list there. Now, the spiciest things that I've seen Flunder kind of adapt with have been what? Like, 2 Barrier Statue is exciting. Yay, I can play 2 Stormwinds in my pile of cards. But, how good is double Stormwinds? I've only seen 1 to 2 lists play it. Apex Avian, for the most part, has, I think, been a mainstay at this point in time. Dark Simorgh has pretty much taken a back seat out of this deck. Dark Simorgh was a pretty cool side deck option in the very early days for this deck, but I think the problem was a lot of players just kind of discounted it. It doesn't really serve a purpose anymore. Eldritch, the set back row Eldritch deck has pretty much fallen out of the back of the room, unfortunately. Cyberse Eldritch still exists, but, at the end of the day, this isn't there anymore. So there's no real point in playing Dark Simorgh anymore. Outside of that, the deck's adaptability is still on par with some of the best in the game, ladies and gentlemen. And, the deck literally defies the laws of the metagame, all right? When you have an entire deck that's, plays on our turn, the fact that the entire deck is a normal summon, they don't care about anything else, it's absolutely atrocious at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. So that is why Floowandereeze, I think, it's like in number 4 in terms of positioning here. All right, so no real surprise there. Now, this next one's gonna really get people going, what? I'm gonna put Sky Striker here at number 3. Now, the reason for this is you have 3 freaking variants of Sky Striker right now, ladies and gentlemen. You have the Adventure DPE package, all right? You have the DPE package, and then you have Pure Sky Striker. Now, let's be honest here, all right? When you have all 3 of these variants, 2 of them do essentially the goddamn same thing. All right, they're just expediting the process to make Eel Verte Anaconda out here. But when you have the 3rd version enter into the room here, you kind of got to take a look at this and go, yeah, all right, Robbie, I'll give it to you. The reason for that is because number 2 here will make sense and will explain something. So Sky Striker's adaptability is crazy to me. Is Sky Striker better than Virtual World and Phantom Knights? Yes. That's why those 2 decks are in this video, and I want to stress that here and say that. Virtual World and Phantom Knights will be in the other video where we talk about the other half of Tier 1. Looking at how things are shaping up right now, Sky Striker's adaptability is the reason why this deck is doing so dang well, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, and like I said, when you can play the Brave package in the deck to expedite DPE, the fact that you get a free pot of greed in this deck. If there's anything that like this format will go down for, it's for the fact that Sky Striker just gets a free draw 2 off a pot of greeting every single turn. The fact that this deck just, it doesn't care, ladies and gentlemen. You know, whatever changes in the format come up, Sky Striker will be there adapting. And that's, I think, the scariest thing about this format is, between all the variations and all the craziness aside here, Sky Striker with 1 engage still remains near the top of the top end format. Hopefully after, you know, we see some hits here, maybe that will change, but we'll have to wait and see here. Next up here is 3 decks. Based, Brave Tenyi, and Cyberse Eldritch. Now the reason why I'm grouping 3 of these decks together at number 2 is I feel like all 3 of these decks, they kind of have the same power scaling, in my opinion. And you're probably like, well, I mean, I guess I could see that. All of them are good stuff decks. All of these decks pull from multiple engines. Tenyi Sword Soul is a little bit more the outlier here because it doesn't do Dagda shenanigans, versus Cyberse, Eldritch, and Based, where both of these decks use the Dagda Scythe plays to disrupt the opponent. But in terms of the way that the meta looks right now, all 3 of these decks set up these crazy boards based on generic cards. And on the top end of the format, I'm not going to lie to you, all 3 of these decks are very scary, alright? And the reason why that is because when you have enough engines in the game, you're able to kind of splash these things together, ladies and gentlemen. You get just that. You get these crazy hodgepodges that don't care about the rules of the format, alright? It's almost crazy enough to look back like the cookie cutter chaos days, where you would see all of these decks pretty much being the same here. But this is the first time I think I've seen in the game's history where you have 3 decks in the same format that are literally hodgepodge cluster piles that are performing up to standard based on the amount of engines. I think the reason why these decks do so well is just, unfortunately, the power that you're presented through the Adventurer package in decks like this. You know, getting the Omni Negates, you know, in the case of being able to special summon the Griffin Riders, a level 7 monster you can step through and synchro. Hi. Yeah, that's great, right? When you can capitalize and turn your special summon Omni Negate into a Baron de Fleur, yeah, that's a big thing to really consider. So that is number 2. Now, number 1 on this list here, I think, has got to be Praying Kids. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at everything for very early regionals, Praying Kids pretty much goes everywhere. All right, Praying Kid Adventures, heck, I've seen pure Praying Kids performing up to standard as well. Like, with the hits on the latest list, where you saw Meow Meow go to 1, you're still seeing Praying Kids out here, ladies and gentlemen. 1 card engines are doing their thing. Consistency, double Battle Butler pops during the opponent's turn is a good thing. But if you're a bad Praying Kids player, yes, bad Praying Kids players do exist, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to point this out, because a lot of Praying Kids players are like, well, you know, I can do this and win the game. There's a little bit more thinking, I think, to this deck than a lot of players really want to give it credit for. If you play Praying Kids blindly and you play into, like, a back row deck, for example, you're just going to lose. Well, I can make the Rip Roar and Rooster. Well, that's cool, but, you know, one big disruption off of, you know, the Rooster going through, like, a 1-for-1, you're just in such a goddamn crap position at that point in time that you're just like, oh, like, how do I recover out of this? And the answer is, you can. It's not a total unwinnable fight, but Praying Kids being on the top end of the consistency chart right now, I think is really just reflective of how crazy this format is right now. So, Praying Kids being ahead of Based, Brave Tenyi, and Cyberse Eldritch in terms of final placement at events, pretty interesting, all things considered. So, guys, what do you think? Please leave a comment down below. What you guys think? Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button, so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.